this trial, this case was going to trial, and I would have an opportunity to speak here in front of the jury and explain it.
I want to ask you again. Did you understand that by not coming forward, that you were putting your brother, your best friend, in more legal jeopardy? Did you understand that?
No, I didn't. I didn't understand that. I didn't. No.
So, you were present on April 20th, 2022, when a search warrant was served at Mr. Mayor's residence, correct?
I wasn't present when it was served, but I was there during the search case.
You were there when they were doing the search, correct?
Correct, yes.
The police, correct?
Yes,
The police, the detectives handling this case, correct?
correct.
That man seated right in the back. Can you stand up for me, detective? You saw him at the defendant's house, correct?
That's correct.
I'm pointing the eye on this case. Did you walk up to him and say to him, detective, it was a prop gun. That's not right. He didn't do anything. Did you tell the detective that?
At that time, I didn't know any details of the case. I just got a phone call saying that there was a search warrant being done at his house, and I should go over there to just be there. I wasn't aware of any of the details of the case. This was early in the morning. I was just getting out of bed. I didn't know that he was being charged for. I didn't know what he was being charged for.
Didn't you already testify, sir, that you had talked to Rocky the day after the incident happened and you knew that he had prop gun?
Correct.
So you're telling me that when the detectives are showing up, serving a search warrant, that you had no idea what it was related to?
I didn't know that this was going to be, it was going to a criminal case until that day.
So when it was that day and the detective is there, you wouldn't have had to call him, you wouldn't have had to go down there. He's right there, and you could have told him it was a prop gun. You could have done that, correct?
I didn't know the details of everything that was going on at that time, sir. I didn't know what was.
Listen to my question. Could you have told the detective on that day it was a prop gun, it wasn't real? Could you have done that?
When I was speaking to the detective,
Yes.
I could have told him, but I didn't have any details of what was going on, sir. It wasn't, at that time, I
Yours
didn't
is
know.
right, everything after yes. Did you tell him it was a prop gun?
Did I tell him it was a prop gun on that day?
Yes.
No.
Now, you were also aware, on that day, you were aware that they collected evidence, correct? You were there supporting your friend, is that right?
I was aware they collected evidence.
By the way, you said you got called when they were serving the search warrant. Who called you?
It was somebody that was on the plane with him. I can't remember exactly who it was that day.
Well, so,
It was like 7 in the morning. I was just waking up to just, hey, you have to go over to Rocky's house. They're going to search the house. And I just jumped in my car and didn't ask questions. I just went.
why would you have to go over to Rocky's house when you're serving a search warrant at Rocky's for something that doesn't involve you?
Well, I've worked with him for a long time, and I actually sometimes manage his property, so I'm able to get access to the house. I have keys, so I could have opened the doors and busting the gate open and bringing the door down. I mean, and if they needed anything in there, I was just there. We have nothing to hide, so I was there if they needed anything. Even at one point, they needed to get into a safe that I broke. I'm so sorry.
What's that?
I'm so sorry.
Slow down.
I'll slow down. I apologize.
So, you go over to the house, you are there when they are collecting guns, correct?
I was outside all the time, so I didn't see exactly what they were collecting.
You became aware on that day or shortly thereafter that detectives did not find a prop gun, correct?
Well, yeah, there was no problem in the house.
So how did you know there was a prop gun in the house?
Because on January of that year, I brought it back to New York to testify.
How did you know there was no other prop gun in the house?
They could have been the prop gun in the house. I didn't know. I know that prop gun was back in New York.
Okay, so you also know that the detectives recovered that Glock 43 9mm magazine, correct?
Yes, I know now they did. Correct.
And it's your testimony that that was actually your magazine, am I correct?
That's correct.
And it's your testimony that even though you do not own a Glock 43, that you bought a 380, correct?
I bought a Glock 42, yes.
Which is a 380,
380,
correct?
that's correct.
380 to not fire 9mm rounds, correct?
That's correct.
And your testimony is that when you bought it, you somehow inadvertently got the wrong magazine. Is that right?
I mistakenly bought the wrong magazine.
And you didn't realize it was the wrong magazine until literally the day you went over to Rocky's house to end up in preparation for going to the shooting range, correct?
That's correct.
And because you did not know that it was anything other than a 380, right, a Glock 42 magazine that fired 380 caliber ammunition, correct? You didn't find that out until you go to the house, and you're like, oh my God, this is the wrong gun, is that right?
Yes.
Did you actually try to put it inside of your Glock 42 to 380?
No, what I was trying to do was, I was trying to load it, and I noticed when I put the 380 ammunition in, it was a little too small, it wasn't fitting correctly.
So, Mr. Levin, if you were only using 380 ammunition, if you're trying to put 380 ammunition, how is it that that magazine was full of 9mm ammunition?
I also own a Smith & Wesson M&P9, which is 9mm. I brought both my handguns that day, so I was loading up my Smith & Wesson magazines with 9mm, and my, I'm so sorry, I'm going too fast. I was loading up my Smith & Wesson magazines with 9mm, and my Glock 42 magazines with 380, so I had both ammunitions on that day.
Now, you're well aware that a Glock magazine looks nothing like a Smith & Wesson magazine, correct?
Yeah,
They
correct.
look nothing alike, correct?
That's right.
So my question is, how is it that that Glock magazine, which you thought was to hold 380 ammunition, ended up being loaded with 9mm ammunition? How did that happen?
When I realized the 380 didn't fit, I tried the 9mm in there, and it fit, and then I further inspected it and realized it was a 43 magazine.
So, by the way, so you're telling me you then needed to figure out what kind of magazine it was. And so you decided to put a 9mm round inside the magazine, correct?
Yes.
So, sir, as soon as you put one 9mm round in the magazine, you know it's not for a 380. Why is it fully loaded with approximately 6 rounds of ammunition? A full Glock 43 magazine, full 9mm round.
Because after we realized we weren't going to the gun range, and I packed everything up, I was just fidgeting with it. At that time, I had just first got guns, and sometimes I would sit there and I would load it and unload magazines just fidgeting around.
So, you loaded a magazine for a gun you didn't have, with ammunition you didn't know went into it, and then when it fit, you fully loaded it all the way. Is that your testimony?
Yes,
Because you were, quote, fidgeting. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Does that sound reasonable to you? Objection, Mr. Smith.